Okay. So can somebody just confirm they can see my screen before I start talking away?
Yep.
So good evening.
Slides, Stu. And can I just, sorry, I just meant to say, sorry, we're going to record the session. So if anybody does have a problem with that, then you'll have to let us know. But we record these sort of sessions, or IOSH recorded these sessions, so that we can access them and they can be shared wider with the IOSH community. So if anybody does have a problem with that, unfortunately, you'll have to drop out, but we do record these sessions. So sorry, Stuart, I should have mentioned that earlier on. I was
No, that's fine.
Let you get on with it. Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you, Stuart. So as Stuart said, I'm Stuart, the other Stuart Jones on the committee. So I've got the really long job title of EHS Sub-Regional Leader for the UK, Ireland and Scandinavia. And I have another role of EHS Business Leader for EMEA Aerospace, which covers some sites in France and Germany. As you can see, I'm a fellow of IOSH, I'm a fellow of ISM, I'm a full member of IEMA, and I'm a chartered environmentalist. So I nearly have the full set of fellowships, but IEMA looks quite hard. So I'm going to talk a bit about Eaton because it gives a bit of background to the reason why we do leading metrics in the way we do, because we're a large company, and we try to make sure our data is standardized as much as we can in terms of from an EHS point of view. And I'll say EHS quite a lot because we're all environmental health and safety managers within the Eaton network. So Eaton's strapline is about how we make matters. I can't even say it. We make what matters work, and we obviously making sure we're trying to look at how we manage power within Eaton. Now, Eaton is moving as a company from a heavy industry company into an everything in the grid company, and obviously the demand for power is growing. As the population grows, and we're actively looking for solutions for that. So Eaton was presenting at COP26 this week on some of the solutions that we can do, and people have been interviewed on the BBC this week from Eaton as well around how we can impact climate change. So that's what we are now. We're moving towards this intelligent power management company. So there's some pictures on the right hand side of things that we do within Eaton. And Eaton as a very small example, Eaton makes things that power the roof that closes at Wimbledon, those type of things. So these are our headquarters. So Dublin is our world headquarters, the office in Dublin. We have a big office in Cleveland where a lot of the senior people live. The EMEA leadership team sits in Morges in Switzerland, which is by Lake Geneva. We've got a site in Shanghai, a big office in Shanghai, and one in Brazil, Sao Paulo. So our chairman is a guy called Craig Arnold, who's been with Eaton for many years, and we have quite effective shareholder dividends, and we are a very inclusive and diverse company. So as you can see, 2/3 of our board directors are women or US minorities, and you can see our sales on the right hand side. So we are a large company. We've got about 95,000 employees at the moment. So you can see we sell a lot of goods, so $18 billion and make relatively good profit on that. So we are a large company, but again, we need to standardize our data as much as we can. And these are some of the things that we make. So we make power distribution and circuit protection, power quality, so UPSs, cover for power losses. We do life safety, so emergency lighting, structural solutions, so we build things as well, controls and automation. We make things for cameras that go out in Siberia and in oil rigs in the desert, so hazardous atmospheres and things like that. We make aerospace parts for planes, for fuel systems, we repair fuel systems. We do filtration for everything from industrial things to wineries, so filters for wine. We make vehicle parts. We still make some clutches. We make fuel injection systems for Ferraris. And we do e-mobility, which is, we've just bought a car charging company called Green Motion, and we make lots of things for electric trains. So we've got this wide portfolio. And we also, as I said, I was talking to the guys before we started, we also make golf grips for golf. So we've got a very wide portfolio of products spread across the world. So in our European operations, we've got about 200, probably 220 different locations, ranging from places with 4 people in an office up to 3,000 people inside. So we've got this huge range of locations across the EMEA, everywhere from Ireland in the west to Finland and Norway in the north, South Africa in the south, and Russia in the Russia, Turkey, whichever one's furthest east. So there's the huge range within the EMEA region, a huge range of cultures and different safety standards. And Eaton is a very acquisitive company, so we're always buying new companies. So this is what we're planning to do. So we develop intelligent power, we create engaging customer experiences so you can see things. We do remote access things, we're making sure we enable the digital factories of the future, and we boost internal productivity. So one of the newest things is about this bright layer platform. So we can look at people's energy data. It's like an app, it's like a program that looks at power and makes sure you use power in the correct way. So it's a process that you can purchase as a company. And you can look for decision making. So lots of things going on in the background to make us this intelligent power management company. And as I said right at the start, everything in the grid. So obviously, as we move towards more renewables, and we don't make things like solar panels, we make converters that take the power from solar panels, but we don't make solar panels. But as we move to this green energy network, we're making sure we optimize the energy, use it as best as we can, build low energy things, for things like cars as well. So we make things for electric cars and, as I said, electric trains. So it's this again strapline of everything in the grid. So that's a bit of an overview of just setting the scene on how why we have to do it. And we've set some goals around sustainability, and safety is in our sustainability goals. So we're measured in a slightly different way to what you would expect in the UK around recordable cases. So RIDDORs, we use the IOSH method because we're an American company. So it's effectively the next day is classed as a recordable injury. And we do have some other measures around sustainability about severe injuries. So we've got a goal to reduce our carbon emissions by 50% by 2030, but in the UK we'll have done that before because it's higher, 60%. But also within our sustainability metrics are engaging people in health and safety or EHS training and reducing our recordability case rate. So making people safer to our program. So it's not just about sustainability in terms of green things, it's also managing our safety programs and being safer and a safer company for people to work in. So I'll now talk about lead indicators. Now I've set the scene. So Eaton has a standard process for how we define leading indicators. So each of the plants. So this is classed as we call this our roadmap process. So every plant has an EHS roadmap. The top left-hand picture that you can see, we're 14001 certified, so we all do management reviews for 14001 and 45001. But each plant does a mini management review. So we have these columns here. These are our standard columns that we get people to assess against, and each plant reviews how they got on in the previous year. So we do these at the start, towards December we'll start them, and they'll be finished by January, and that sets that map for the rest of the year. And obviously leading indicators are linked to this program. So each site does a mini management review, puts some notes in the roadmap in terms of things that went well. And I always use my wife's a teacher, I always use a teaching phrase, what went well, even better if. So what went well during the year, what could we have done better during the year. When we've done that process, that links into where we've got to fix things. We develop our projects, so our key projects for the next year. So EBS is the Eaton Business System. We identify key strategic issues. So these are our issues that we identified. And then we develop KSOs, which are key strategic objectives. So we identify our key strategic or projects in simpler language. And then we develop what the justification for that project is. So we don't allow sites to just put something in because it's nice to have. It has to be an improvement to the program. And I review all these for the locations that I'm responsible for. And then that justification process and that project gets pulled down into this plan. So this is our plan for the year for each of this particular site. So they've got 4 projects and they're working on these projects, and then they put on, I've deliberately deleted the owners out of this process. So they identify their tactical plans. So they've got the plan of improving safety. So Mesh Light is an office program for offices with either no manufacturing or a bit of manufacturing, so not heavy manufacturing sites. So then they develop their actions to achieve that goal and put in when they're going to do them. And they could be spread over the year, or they could just be a single month of doing an activity. So that process is our roadmap process that sets a plan for each site. So there are 200 sites across EMEA who do this exact same process every year, sets a plan. These get reviewed for my regional area every month by me with the plans, and they also get reviewed by the business lead for the plan for that plant as well. So if you're in, for me, for aerospace, I review all of the aerospace ones to make sure people are on track. The aerospace ones we do in a call. So, and then to support those projects, so these projects, these projects and these projects, each site is then required to set their own leading metrics. So they have to support a leading metric that will drive that program. But in the roadmap tool, there is a form, this picture of this sheet, is for them to define the metrics. So the metrics they want to have, so it's in this case, the top line is EHS training. Safety media is an external e-learning system that we use in the UK, and any external training. And then they have to determine a measure of how they're going to measure it in the roadmap. And obviously this measure is just a percentage of courses versus plan. The other one, this is Gemba. So Gemba walk is a Japanese word for walking around and looking. So people, we go around and look. This is at multiple different levels of the organization. Beacon is again another subscribed system we use. Observations are people walk around identifying hazards or unsafe behaviors. And then risk assessments, we have an active risk reduction program. Risk assessment is slightly strange within Eaton because we call things workstation risk assessments. I would call them task-based risk assessments. So we do task-based risk assessments for every task that we do. So if someone is operating a pillar drill and all they do is drill holes in a piece of metal, that's a workstation for us. So there is a risk assessment that works on a step-based process, and we identify risk assessments. Whatever the risk is, we have active to in this case, they're reducing anything that's got a residual risk of 8 has to have an action plan to reduce that risk. That's quite low in terms of the risk. We look at non-routine risk assessments is another activity we do. So things that don't have a risk assessment and a work instruction or a standard work or an SOP or a method statement. Those things have to have a non-routine risk assessment. There is a special tool for those. And then Heroes is a recognition program. So it's how we recognize people for doing things safely or doing things exceptionally safely in some cases. So we call them level 1 and level 2 heroes. And then this site is looking at how do they reduce first aid incidents. So there are some leading, lots of leading metrics. And these aren't the same site as I showed in the previous slide. This was one that had some really good examples of leading metrics. So, but that's how we measure. So each site has to develop. So some sites may only have one leading metric. Some may have 6 or 7, as in this case. So it's a movable feast. And then for our leading metrics, we have lots of data inputs. So they include things like observations and safety improvements, the level 1 recognition, the hero program. So on the left-hand side is our data reporting system called Mesh Prism, which is a SAP-based system. So anybody within the company, anybody on the shop floor, any individual can go in and add things into the system through our Joe portal, which is our like homepage. So people can go and report injuries, near misses, observations, property damage. So the last one, property damage we did was someone in Dublin driving into a post in a car park, which is quite interesting. Releases to the environment, security incidents like a break-in, natural disaster like a storm or a tornado. You know, obviously as a global company, we do have earthquakes and tornadoes. Somebody phoning us up with non-regulatory issues. So, you know, a neighbour complaining, any awards, so an award from ROSPA or IOSH or someone, and then an action plan to address those things. So all these things have an action plan module within them. This is where sites enter metrics every month, and which is this part, and then obviously report. So some of the leading metrics, and there are more than these. So every month, sites go in and add this data in. So they just drop down what month it is and put the quantity into the system. So there are far more inputs than this, but this was just a very simple process of where those leading metrics come from, where we identify them, and how we flow them into our data reporting system on a monthly basis. We also measure as leading metrics potentially severe injuries. So where someone hasn't, someone may, in these injuries, somebody may have injured themselves. So severe injuries for Eaton are things like a fracture, a concussion, overnight hospitalization, a burn that needs hospital treatment. There's a couple of others that I can't remember. So we've defined our potentially severe injuries. Defined our severe injuries, and then we look at potentially severe injuries to look for, which is a leading activity to try and prevent those those real severe injuries happening. So you'll see the severe injuries when I show you the data and the non-data. But so as it says there, our work-related incident could have resulted in a severe injury outcome. The determination is based on the risk profile, not the degree of the injury. So someone could have dropped a hammer on their finger and had no first aid or anything, but that potentially could have broken their finger. So there is a whole grid of different categories, which are these numbers that you can see in the right-hand column. So we look at near misses, first aids, or non-severe recordable cases. So recordable case for Eaton is if somebody misses the next day at work. So you can see, so this is for my sub-region for the last 3 years. So you see the most is, this is loss of balance or traction, body contact, other than the feet hitting the floor. So falling over, effectively. And then dropping things. So this could be anything from, anything that's under 10 pounds. And then you can see it slowly goes down. So, this bottom one was a fire in an automatic CNC machine that the extinguisher just put out within 10 seconds. But potentially, if the extinguisher didn't work, we could have had a severe injury. So, and these categories are all numbered because they are specific categories that the sites have to select in. If they're in this process and they put an injury in, there is a selection box in there for them to select this number. So that's looking at, it's like a precursor, and we see it working. We're looking at this thing, and that is that leading metric to measure potentially severe injuries. So I've just done a program global program to look at situational awareness and slip, trips and falls. And we've seen in EMEA, we've seen a 50% reduction in slip, trips and falls injuries in 2021 compared to 2020. So looking at these precursors to significant injuries is obviously working in that case. It's going to be harder, I think, as we get down. So we're looking at trying to look at those severe injuries and look for where our next injury is coming from as a leading metric. And then finally, when we talked about the heroes, we do recognition. So we do a lot of recognition programs within Eaton, and we have this operational integrity approach, which covers the way we deal with safety issues. So, we expect everyone, the majority of people, to be in the middle of this process, in this sort of expected safety, but we still need to give them some recognition. So we do we've got a program called eStar, where people can recognize people and people can give points, and you can claim them for Amazon vouchers or kitchen equipment. There's a huge catalogue that you can get them for. So we expect most people to be in here, but we still need to give them positive recognition to our hero program and through our safety programs, through our Gemba walk process. So we do positive reinforcement messages through our managers, but we also do peer-to-peer recognition within the site, so they're able to do peer-to-peer recognition. But then when we do have violations, we do deal with them. So we have a process. We have 6 life-saving rules around things like forklift trucks and confined spaces and working at height. And when people breach those rules, they go through an investigation process, and we deal with them however we need to do them. So we give coaching, and we do, if people have willfully broken the rules, people do leave the company for other employment. But that has to go through a proper process. So we make sure, we have to make sure we've trained these people adequately. There was nothing stopping them doing the activity safely, and there was no, there was no, they weren't trying to do something quick, not quickly, that's the wrong word. They weren't doing something to get themselves out of harm's way and had to break a rule to get out of harm's way. And then on the other side, we do where people do exemplary safety things. So, we've had people, we've given positive recognition and, those leading metrics around people who've gone outside there's been a car crash outside the facility, outside the site, and people have gone outside and saved people's lives. We do it for community activities, recognition, and those type of things. So we're driving that sort of positive reinforcement and leading metrics around giving people recognition, which is good. So, and then finally, I think in terms of the leading metrics, driving them into things, we have an operating safety maturity model, which is all around risk assessment, work instructions or SOPs, standard work, method statements, whatever you'd want to call it, non-routine risk assessments, training for people. So people have to be trained in what our operating safety model is, the recognition that we give, and we also have safety critical steps. So in our work instructions, we always have, well, not every work instruction has one, but they have safety critical steps. So that could be something as simple as you're doing an activity and then you have to do something hot within that activity, so you have to put a pair of gloves on, and that could be a safety critical step. It could be around completing lockout tagout and trying to re-energize the equipment after you've locked it out to make sure it is actually locked out is a safety critical step. And we do Gemba walks or inspections as part of our walks around the facilities to make sure people are following those work instructions and risk assessments to drive them. So they again are positive looking at leading indicators. So sites are expected to move across this model, down, fill the gaps, move across. So most sites in my sub-region are in between demonstrating and excelling. We've only got one site in excelling, but they're in demonstrating. So they are moving, and we've been doing this for about 3 years. And this really drives our improvement process. So it really sort of has there is a structure for people to work on. And obviously for these, they all link it back into that. This is in the roadmap. They all link back to that roadmap process for people to drive improvement, define leading indicators, keep making improvements, and keep rolling that safety program around to make sure that we are really improving our systems all of the time. So I think that's the one about that. So the blue square on the bottom is for the protection of the innocent. So that's the list of sites. So these are all my sites within the my sub-region, sub-region 4, it's called for ease. So you can see this is our goal, again based on OSHA rate. And these are lagging indicators. I'll only briefly took at these. So these are incidents. So red ones are above the goal. So our recordable case is again based on OSHA, not RIDDOR. So these, I've got 3 severe injuries here. None of those would have been RIDDOR in the UK. So they're all tiny fractures in fingers. So even a tiny fracture in a finger is counted as severe for Eaton. So our leading indicators on here, and this is the reason I've got this slide up, is around our observation. So you can see that people are making observations around unsafe conditions or unsafe acts, reported in the systems through the systems that we've just seen in a few slides ago. And then we deal with those. So we've always got programs inside, so they don't just make the observation. For each site, they have follow-up processes. So some sites use T cards and follow them up. Some sites have nice Power BI reports or other data systems that allow us to see the observations and the tracking, and we close them. So one of our other leading metrics is around the closure of these observations. So you can see it's a bit less than last year. I mean, we're probably going to get to about 5,500 by the end of the year, which is less than that, but we've got a few less people this year than last year because of COVID and changes in our business. And from my list, there were 2 other sites on this at the start of the year we sold a business. So you can see overall there is good performance. Some of these sites where they've got 0 are tiny offices with like 3 or 4 people, or just purely office locations. so they don't report that many observations, if any. And then we have our leading metrics. So this is linked to our operating safety model. So this is the operating safety model, the maturity model. So you can see where people are in the system. So 6, 6, and 1. We've got 101% risk assessments because somebody has messed up in this line. So one of my sites has got more risk assessments than they've got workstations. So you can see how many workstations we've identified. And again, the blanks are offices. You can see how many workstations we've identified, our risk assessments that are completed that we've done, our workstation risk assessments or task-based risk assessments, and the percentage completed, which is 101. And then our work instructions, which is slightly less because our work instructions require us to do a lot more work with other functions like quality and CI, continuous improvement, and operations to make sure they're following, because they have to be involved more in the process than our risk assessment process, because it's about making sure we can make the product in the right way, but in the safest way. And then you can see at the top, we've recognised in my region 556 people formally through their recognition program. And then we've had 4 exemplary heroes, so level 2 heroes. So there's, we've got that recognition process. There are thousands of unofficial recognition that don't go into the system, thank yous and simple recognition out on the shop floor. But these are the ones that are actually through our E-Star recognition system. So we've got all these leading metrics that drive us to improve. And then Office 365. So I don't know how many people know about Office 365, and I will nip out into Office 365 in a minute in terms of how we drive our programs. So we try and use Office 365 Microsoft products to make sure we're reducing our data inputs through paper recording, so we don't use paper processes in many of the sites. We also, when we deliver training, use Office 365 to make sure we can do quizzes. You can set quizzes up in Office 365 and gather all the feedback without having to do training sheets. We've just done Eaton call it a voice of the customer. So we've just done a survey of all of our EHS professionals across the region. And we've had the results back today to ask them about what the biggest issues are. And we've done that through Office 365. And we also use SharePoint. So I've just said voice of the customer. And we also do follow-up. So if we have a significant incident within Eaton, so recently we had a broken finger where someone, they put their finger in the wrong place in a chucking machine, and then it closed under low pressure and it fractured the tip of their finger. But because that's a shareable process and could happen at other sites, we've shared that. What we'll do is we create a lessons learned, document a PowerPoint slide with the key lessons learned from that incident. We'll share that out, but we'll also follow up with a survey to say, have people read the lessons learned? Have they understood it? Is that risk at their site? And could they see that happening? And then have they developed actions to address that issue? So that's a follow-up to make sure that we don't have incidents in isolation. So again, that's sort of leading process. So the right-hand picture is an audit that I'm going to show you in a minute. And then we also use Power BI. So Power BI is an app, again in Office 365, that gathers data from all of our leading metrics and our lagging metrics. So this top one is about observations. So you can see it's our Mesh Power BI dashboard. And these are from observations from, I think this is a global report. This isn't my sub-region. This is a global report that I copied today, which is showing where our main unsafe conditions are. So when somebody makes an observation, when we saw a few slides ago about the observation process, they report them into the system. They identify whether it's an unsafe condition or unsafe act, and then what that unsafe condition is, and they report it into the system, and then we can gather this data instantly. So they're all automated. No one has to do anything. So if someone is changing the original data set or data source, they're on a 1 hour refresh, but they automatically update. No one has to touch the data again, and you can just look at this data. And then at the bottom is one around our tasks. So this is my sub-region, sub-region 4. So these are the tasks that we're working on that are in the system. So we've just finished our internal self-assessment process for all of our regulatory issues and non-regulatory issues. So we have a lot of tasks overdue at the moment. We're just to close those down for the rest of the year. So this is the outputs of our metrics, so our outputs of the system, and linking into how we measure leading indicators. So these leading indicator observations. So this means that we can then look at so defective equipment or supplies is our biggest unsafe condition. Obviously followed by slippery floors. So that's what sort of like formulates our program for the coming years through our strategic planning process. So I think that's it. So I'm just going to try this new share and then see if I can see. I can't see where my Power BI. Has anybody got any questions while I'm trying to find where my stuff is?
Stuart, there's a few questions in the chat. What I suggested is potentially that we look at those at the end, if you'd rather do that,
okay,
rather than try and multitask.
I'm quite happy I'm just struggling
to read
find
them out to you.
I'm just
well,
struggling.
This is an opportune moment where we talk between ourselves while you sort your IT issues out.
Well, I'm normally on Teams. I can do share and I can see my screen. I wonder if that's going to be. So share my screen, and let me just go into. Can you see my screen now?
I can see your screen. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine then. Okay, I'll be able to do it then. So I'll go into Forms then. So you should be able to see Microsoft Forms now.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Got it. Yep.
So this is Forms. So this is available to everybody who's got Office 365, and I know some people don't have Office 365. So you can see all of the forms. These are my forms. So these are in my little site. So when somebody just finds, so we've got some, I've got quizzes. So I can look at, a quiz. I'll do this one because this is quite an easy one because it's got some responses. So it'll load. So this is a quiz I created. Took me 10 minutes. To create it. Obviously, the ticks are the correct answers. Stormwater is a particular issue within Eaton. So stormwater for us in the UK means stuff that rains and then gets dirty as it goes into the drains. So it's slightly different in America. So I've set these questions. I can send this out to people. I could show you. Okay, right. So if I click on, once I've got this quiz and I've written my questions, I've developed my quiz or my survey or whatever else I want, I can then click share. And this is the bit I like about this. So you can send it out as a link. You can copy as a link, but you can also share it as a QR code. So you can see that QR code on the right. So I can copy that. So if you, I don't know how this one's set up. I'll show you the other one in a minute. If you get your mobile phone and you open your camera and you scan it over the QR code, it will open the quiz. So you can do things on your phone. So when you're doing a training program, you can put a QR code on the last slide and people can provide you feedback on the quiz or on whatever you wanted to ask them about directly on their phones. Obviously, you can send it out as a link to people. And then you get all of your responses get gathered into pretty graphs, pie charts, in terms of what the process is. So I can see who got them right and who got them wrong. So obviously you can see there are a percentage of people who got these wrong, and you can then open this in Excel and it will show all of the responses and so you can see there with the responses and everything. So you can take this and use it as your training sheet. So that's I'll go back to Forms because I will show you the other one that I was going to show you. So if it decides to go back. So that was the one I showed you the picture of in the screen is an audit. So you can do audits. So you can do things like we've got some sites who use the QR code function to drive their leading metrics. So for heroes and recognition, they've printed off the QR code on a piece of paper, laminated it and stick it on the wall, and employees can then scan it and recognize their peers through that process. So this is a lockout tagout. So lockout tagout Lotto for us in Eaton is an internal audit we use in the sites. Only I've responded to this one because I've shared shared it as a template. So if I click share again and I do my QR code again, you can scan this, and I'm gonna do it, and anybody can do this because I have set this one up for anybody. So if you've got a phone, and you've got a camera, you should be able to scan it. And I'm going to do it. Oh no, it's not going to work because I need to move the box that says I'm talking. So I'm scanning it. I'm opening it, and I'm just going to do. I'm quickly going to just add some of the questions because you'll see how quick it works.
It's worked. I'm in it already, Stu.
Have you done it? Okay. Yeah. No, I'm in it.
Yeah.
I'm just submitting. Yep. So this works. Yeah. Yeah. So those questions there. I'm going to click submit. It might say I haven't answered one of the questions, but yeah, I need to put my name in. I obviously set it up properly. So this took about 5 minutes to put together. I'm going to press submit, and then you see it's just changed to 2 responses because I've just responded to the survey. So you get your response instantly. But you can do this across the site. You can post them, you can send them to people, and you can gather all of the information. And we're trying to move to this digital solution where we try and remove as much paper as we can. So okay. And then the final bit I was going to show you was here, which is a Power BI. So I've tried to. We've got lots of Power BI reports, but they've got some not sensitive data, but some identifiable data, and we're told about our GDPR process. So this is one that doesn't really show anything that's identifiable. So this is from a system called Safety Hub, or for people who may know, in the old days, Safety Care, Monty. Which used to be training videos, and they do an online training system now. So, you know Monty?
Yeah, I've got it as well.
Yes. So this is online Safety Hub. We have got a Power BI report that runs out of this, so you can see all of our training. So we do add our own training in as well to the system. So if it says MESH, which MESH is our Management of Environmental Safety, Security and Health Program, it's our management system. So you can see sites have put these in. This one is set up so I can look at the sites, individual sites, and it will show me individual sites. I can filter by a department, so you can see, and this line is showing me how many courses I've set. This is how many are complete, so we can track it. I can move the date to show when people have done them, and again, this one hasn't been refreshed for a while, but this is because I haven't refreshed it because I haven't used it for a while. But it's we can automate this data, so it automatically pulls out of the system. Obviously you can change these charts. Can be different. They don't have to be they don't have to be bar charts. They can be pie charts. They can be any type of chart once you've got them in Power BI. So this is how Power BI works, and I'll try and find another Power BI report that's not got any sensitive data in. Actually, I'll show you the COVID one because that's general. So so you can see all the Power BI reports here that I've got access to. Actually, I'll show you this one. This is a live one because this has been done today, as you can see. So this is our voice of the customer survey. So we've used this. So we've created a survey in forms. So we sent out a form to everyone 3 weeks ago, all of our EHS professionals across EMEA, and asked them to effectively give us feedback on the processes that give them the most pain within our systems, so we can work on fixing them. So in this ratings column, and you see this is our, so these are most issues that we have within our management system. So training, reporting in Mesh Prism, and management of change. So we have a formal management of change if you want to move a machine from one place to another place. So we've got a lot of, and we obviously got feedback in this system. So this is how we use Power BI. So this was done by one of our data analysts who created this Power BI report from the form survey. But again, if someone changes something in the survey, if someone completed the survey tomorrow, even though they were supposed to do it a week and a half ago, it would update automatically into this system. So that's Power BI. So Power BI is the tool we use it. I mean, if I'll go back to Power BI in the thing, and you'll see if I go into And I won't show you any of these reports because we could get into a rabbit hole of getting down the reports. But if you look at our mesh, these meshes again, our management system reports, all these ones down the left hand side are our Power BI reports. So all the things we look at. So action plans, EOR is our environmental operating. So you can see all the things that we look at across the thing. We've got different, so our regional, our EMEA reports, we've got different reports for different people. So there are hundreds of reports being created, and even in some of the sites, so Titchfield, which is one of my larger sites, is developing their own Power BI reports. This is in test, so I can show you this, but because they're just testing it. But so yes, so we use Power BI a lot because it automates data. So you can have any data set from SharePoint, from Excel, from Microsoft Forms, from Access, and you can run a Power BI report off it and have live data that shows where you are with anything. And obviously then you can pull these, the graphs, whatever graphs you want in, you can put these, well, I don't even know what these are called, but you can put these in, just set the timeline and you can filter them, and they don't save. Well, they do, they look at when you're doing it, they do save, but they don't save. Once you come out of it, it goes back to the default position again. So you can't, even I haven't managed to mess it up yet. So that is it. So I will pause my share or whatever I need to do, and I'll look in the chat.
I was going to say, Stu, if you want, I'll read the questions out, and then
yeah, go on then.
We can go from there if that's fine.
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
So the first one from Claire: do you find that attempting to reduce first aid incidents actually reduces all-round reporting? Commonly under-reporting of minor first aid incidents, small cut, scrapes, etc. How do you capture these, or do you capture these within the reporting system?
We do. We capture them as, so we have a different category as well. We have report only. We can report in the system, which is like a no first aid incident. So we had one yesterday at one of my sites where an employee felt dizzy and was attended by a first aider, but didn't give them any first aid really. And it's not really an accident. So that goes in as a report only incident. But we're quite good at reporting first aids. I mean, I can't remember how many were in that PowerPoint. I'd have to go back and look at the number that I said or was in the report, but it was quite what was it, first aids, or was it only say 7? That's not right. Yeah, we are good at reporting. We expect everyone to report absolutely everything, and we don't see many hidden first aids. We don't, there's no real prize within Eaton for getting first aids. I mean, sites we have an annual recognition program for sites that, if you remember the recordable case rate I was talking about, if you're below 0.5 or you've had less than 1 recordable incident, because obviously if you're a very small site and you have 1 incident, you'll be over that 0.5 because it's based against your work hours. Then you get a recognition anyway. So there is no real benefit in under-reporting. People don't under-report. We find that lots of people report everything. And the site that got the leading metric around first aids was around, because they don't have recordable injuries, they're really moving down to the next level, and they're trying to fix those issues from reporting and trying to reduce first aids through implementing. And that site has gone down the process of actually implementing lots of cobots to remove people away from the hazards where they were having first aids. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. I was just going to comment, when I was in a company that's remained nameless, every now and then you get certain areas, predominantly engineers, technicians, that sort of thing, saying, can I have some more plasters? Yep. You say, well, what do you want plasters for? Well, the first aid box is empty, but if you haven't reported them,
yep,
why do you need more plasters? Oh, well, yeah. And it was just that challenge of I used to think that people saw it as a hazard of trade. So these were technical people, probably tool makers that have been in the job for a long time, and they saw that the cut on the finger or the pinch in the nail or whatever was a workplace hazard that was to be expected. So it took a lot of cajoling and talking to people to say, well, actually, no, that's not right. It's not acceptable.
Mhm.
So thank you for that. Right, next question is from Paul.
Oh.
Do your managers have a target on the number of Gemba walks and safety observations that they need to complete?
Yes. So some in terms of the observation, so the second part of the question, some businesses set a goal of trying to have two per quarter per employee. The issue we have with that is we get lots of people reporting the same thing because they're just measured on it. It doesn't really drive the improvement. We're trying to make that measure around quality, not quantity. Really identifying those issues. And one of the programs we've just introduced is around situational awareness, which is shamelessly stolen from the HSE because they have a construction situational awareness. So it's about being aware of your surroundings and looking for things that could distract you. And I'd rather people be reporting those things that might cause an incident rather than reporting the same roof leak every week just to hit their measure. The number of Gemba walks, yes, I mean it varies. I mean from a team leader level, which is probably our sort of our first level of supervision, they do one every day. They do Gemba walks every day. Senior leadership, so that the site manager will do one. Actually, most site managers will do one every day. Formally, they'll do one every week. They're required to do one every week. And then obviously people like me, when I turn up at the sites and when other out of sight people turn up, we're expected to do one as well. So there is but it's a bit of a movable feast because it depends on the plant, the different sites, and where they are with their safety culture. So if we've got sites that are fairly robust, they'll carry on doing the safety culture. We've got other sites that are a bit lower down in their safety culture, and they'll do more frequent Gemba walks because they're trying to make sure they're engaging with employees all of the time. So some sites in aerospace, for example, have a system called EASE, which is again a subscribable system you can search for. It's called Beacon EASE on the internet. That's a quality tool which allows you to do Gemba walks. It's also quite good because you set someone up in the system. So if I was set up in one of the site systems and it said Stuart Jones has to do this Gemba walk, it's automatically allocated to me and it emails it me and it keeps emailing me until I've done it. So once you've set that frequency up, and we do that, some sites do it more on a board. They have Gemba boards because they're not using that technology. But realistically, everyone who's in a leader of people position, as we call them in Eaton, has to do one a week.
Cool, thank you. Next question from Amanda, and this goes back to the hero bits as to what sort of how do you sort of define levels of hero-ness?
Okay,
if that's a word.
Yeah. So a level 1 hero would be somebody who may have reported a significant safety observation and taken some action to deal with it. So they see a leaking machine which is leaking oil onto the floor, and they, instead of just going to their manager and saying there's a leak over there, they'll actually actively go and do something. They'll put some spill kit down, they'll put cones around it, they'll tell people there's a hazard there. So that's a level 1 hero. A level 2 hero would be somebody who would do something exemplary. So as I said before, like doing something in a car crash outside. They might do something to rectify a significant hazard. I think we've had what was the last? I'm trying to think of the last level 2 hero we had was. So we had 2 people who in aerospace. So 2 of mine in aerospace were the same one. It was 2 first aiders who dealt with a person who was having a significant asthmatic attack in the site, and they dealt with her, made sure she was safe. While the ambulance was coming, we've had people who've given people CPR out on the shop floor. And those things, but we also do them out in the community, so people get them for doing community activities. We do them for environmental safety and health. So it could be people developing their own wellness campaign, and we do obviously green ones as well. So we've had people who have not built things, because that sounds again wrong, but made things to make things safer. So look for ergonomic things to make things safer. So that gets them to level 2. Level 2s are. So the reason I only showed level 1s in the original data input process, because level 2s go through a vetting process. So if a site thinks they have a level 2 hero, they submit it into a SharePoint form. That automatically alerts the business owner. So for aerospace, me. I then have a discussion with the operations manager for that site, and we discuss about whether it is a level 2 hero or a level 1 hero, and then we give them some recognition in terms of E-star points. So normally, the equivalent of £100 in E-star points, so they can buy something to the value of £100. They also have to the site has to put some slides together about what they did, and we get that person on quite a high level call, and we talk through it with them on the process to recognise them formally in front of some of their peers and some very senior leadership within the organisation. So not all level 1 heroes that get submitted as level 2s make it to level 2s. So
thank you. So Amanda's just come back and said thank you very much. We've got a recognition system, but all at the same level, so she's very interested in that. So yeah, thank you for that. The last question was for myself, but I think you could have answered that, and it was around the forms and the quizzes. So something that I'd be interested in, certainly when I'm inducting contractors onto the project that I'm looking after, is checking that sort of level of knowledge, and the fact that they might have turned their Zoom or their Teams camera off, but they've not gone away and done 10 laps around the garden while I've been talking. So it's that recognition, and how do we sort of share that? So it might be something that we could pick up after Stuart's just show me how to do that.
In that forms process. Hang on, let me just, hang on, bear with me, resume share, sorry. So in the forms bit, it's just when you set it up, you can see you've answered, you're outside of my organisation. When you set it up, it's in this part at the top. So you just select from only people in my organisation, only people I've told to respond, and anyone. Okay. So you've responded to that, because that was the bit that was worrying me, because we did have a bit of an issue with the quizzes, because quizzes is a different bit, but it's still in forms, which is just a new quiz. But it's about how you set this up. So if you want it to be internally, it's that one. For everybody, it's that one. Okay. So anybody.
And is there a facility, or would you have to generate a new one each time to rotate the questions?
No, you can click shuffle, I think, when you set it up.
Right. Okay.
So if I go back to questions, if I do add new, and then it gives me a choice with the thing, and then there's a bit where you can do shuffle. Yep. So it'll put them in different orders. Yeah. It's quite iterative. It's fairly idiot proof once you've done it, because it is writing a question. I mean, the issue with when you do add new questions, if you do text, it's quite difficult to analyze. Right. And there's all sorts of things you can do with this, which are beyond my competence, where you can add, branching, which means if you add answer a question yes, it will open another question. Right. Okay. There's another process called Power Automate, Power Apps, which that Power Automate, if you answer yes in a question, you can make it send an email to a specific person. Right. Okay. But that's a bit beyond my pay grade at the moment in terms of getting that to there. So
no, that's really useful. Thank you. So there's not any further questions in the chat. Does anybody want to sort of click off mute? Has anybody got anything that they would like to ask or comment on? This is where it all gets quiet and everybody hides behind their screen.
Well, you can either look at that as a negative or positive. Either no one's listening, or I answered everyone's question.
So Paul said that's very informative, and thank you very much. So I just sort of echo that. I've really enjoyed that, and certainly the latter bit for me has been certainly this forms and this sort of checking of comprehension and of knowledge is going to be like manna from heaven for me to be able to check with contractors to make sure that they're listening, because it's doing stuff through Teams and through Zoom is not the same as being in a room where you can see if Fred in the corner is playing on his phone, or George or Sheila has fallen asleep in the corner. You can't see when you're on Teams. So
no. So, but you can also send people out if they're on site. You could if you've got your audits set up, your audit questions set up. You can obviously email that to someone on a morning and say, I want you to do this inspection now.
Yeah.
and go and do it. And you know, we use it for all sorts of things. So you can see like ladder surveys and things, and you know, looking at ladders and things.
Yeah, it's really good.
Walks and stuff.
It's really good.
But obviously, if anybody on the call who obviously doesn't want to ask a question, then obviously, you know, if you're not connected to me on LinkedIn and you want to connect to me on LinkedIn, I'll happily answer questions, and I'll share anything I can. I mean, obviously, some of the stuff is, you know, I can share how to do this. I can share how to do a quiz with you. You can do, because you can also do when you do. I think you can do it with quizzes. If you do it as a quiz, you can do, I think, share as template. So basically, if you've got multiple sites and one person does a form, you can share it as a template, and that person will get the template in their forms part, and then they can change a couple of the questions if they need to change any of the questions.
Yeah.
So there is that ability as well. But if anybody
That's really good, yeah,
needs any information about it, I mean, I'm not saying I'm an expert in forms, and you know, our data person is, you know, as I always joke with him, he's one of these people who'll get arrested for hacking into the Pentagon, but he's really good and really knows how to do this. You know, this is simple, but in terms of the Power BI process,
don't give him your bank details. Yeah.
No, but if anybody wants to connect to me on LinkedIn and ask me a question on LinkedIn, I'll quite happily respond. I will respond, and if you need anything, or you know, if you need, you know, if you want to connect and get my details and you need to phone me, then obviously you know, you can feel free to phone me or connect me in any other way, except on Facebook, because I don't do Facebook or Instagram or TikTok.
No, yeah.
Or any of those things.
There's lots of thank yous. So I'm not going to go through everybody that said thank you, but really just to reiterate, thank you, Stuart. Thank you for everybody attending. And if there's no more questions, then I'll bid you good evening. Thank you for attending. These sessions are recorded, so I gather they are, or they will be available at some point in time on the IOSH website. I'm not sure where they are, can't send you to them, but I gather they are recorded for posterity, and you will be able to access it, I gather, after that date. So thank you very much, everybody.
Okay,
and
thank you very much.
Good evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Excellent, thank you.